Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Yes, a lot of people, which is very, very nice to see.
Super. Yeah, I see names I haven't spoken to long, but I recognize. Really nice.
Yay, this is why we are
Super.
Hacking HR Luxembourg and friends. I can already see Luxembourg and I can already see friends. This is amazing.
Yay.
Yeah. So hello everybody and welcome to the first 2021 event of Luxembourg Hacking HR and Friends. We are recording just for everybody to know. We are doing the GDPR check. So know that this is recorded. It will probably take some time until it will end up on the Global Hacking HR YouTube channel. So I hope you are okay with that. And with your patience and understanding, we will just give a couple of extra minutes for everybody to jump on and for technology to decide to help us. Can everybody hear us okay? Everything works? Perfect. So please feel free to use the chat to ask questions, to mix and mingle, to drop your LinkedIn profile link. Tell us where you're connecting from. We would love to hear where you're part of this super nice community. And if you have anything that you want to just drop there for starting the conversation, that's amazing. So we have from Romania. Hi. I hear back from my home country. That is awesome.
I also see my former colleague, Sophie. So happy to see you.
Hello. Hi, Julian.
I cannot see you, I can only hear you, but...
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh.
Hi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have Luxembourg, the Netherlands. We have
Austria.
Germany. We have
Serbia.
Romania. Oh.
Yeah, cool.
Greece. We have a hello from Greece.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
And I think we also have South Africa because Jane said that she was joining. I don't know if she's already there.
I haven't seen Jane yet.
But she sent me a message that she was joining. So
perfect. So we will also have South Africa. That's perfect. So I can see that we're already growing. A bit of housekeeping. So you can unmute yourselves. The whole idea is to have an open conversation. We will have a short section of introductions, a bit of setting the scene, and then we will start talking about what employee experience and engagement means now going into 2021 and beyond. Again, please feel free to use the chat to raise questions, to drop your opinions, to start building relationships and meaningful connections. We do have a Q&A session at the end, but we don't want to wait that long. So if you feel particularly inspired at one point, just feel free to unmute and become part of the conversation.
Yeah, a bit of a disruptive chaos can be fun too, huh?
Always.
There you go.
This is where the hacking part comes in.
Exactly. Cool.
Okay, so as soon as we hit the 35 minute past 5, we will start the event, and then I will keep looking sideways just to see whether people are waiting, and I will push my favorite button, which is admit.
Yeah. I see Poland, I see Scotland, I recognize those. Very nice.
Perfect. So Thank you very, very much, everybody, for taking the time today to help us kickstart this new year with every third Wednesday event series from Hacking HR Luxembourg and Friends. I'm particularly happy about the and Friends bit. It's a blessing of the times that we are navigating together, just reaching out to people and being more open to connect and spend time together online and hopefully also offline at some point in time. Um, my name is Minola Jacques. I'm also known sometimes as Hacking HR, and that's a very nice thing to be called. Um, I'm I'm originally from Romania. I started the Hacking HR Luxembourg adventure back last summer with the help of some amazing, amazing people. I'm deeply grateful and blessed with their trust and confidence and ongoing support. Um, Today, we are here to talk about employee experience and engagement. And we will have a short round of introductions. So our panel um, starts with the Netherlands. So we have Nanda Wortman joining us today. If we can do the Zoom introduction so people know where to look. So there we have Nanda, and she says some very interesting things about herself. She gets inspired by truly connecting with people with their stories, their abilities, desires, and opportunities. She sold cigarettes, and now she sells concrete and asphalt. Having lived in 4 countries and worked in many more, she has been able to look deep inside herself, and with that knowledge, she says, I love practicing in the HR field in its broadest sense. Organizational development and growth through people is how she likes to call it. And she practices the philosophy that people tend to be way more capable than what they initially inclined to think about themselves. And unlocking their full potential is such an exciting process for her. She also gets energy from a much more creative side. And she says, I love music and can live without it. I play it, sing it, and listen to it. So thank you very much, Nanda, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Next, we have Irene Masiku. Hi, Irene.
Hi.
Also known today as MacBook Pro. Irene is fascinated by all things emotional and where these emotional moments take humans in their lives. She's madly in love with the alchemy of emotion transformation, purveyor of the happiness value in society. She's also an advocate of all things positive. Trained, equipped, and supervised by University of Cambridge Institute of Continuing Education, and always, always, always smiling. So thank you very much, Irene, for being with us today. Thank you.
For having me.
Minola, there is a message from somebody waiting outside the door.
Oh, thank you.
I got a WhatsApp. Let me in.
That's perfect. I had the bios window open, so thank you very much. We are doing this agile. So it's a teamwork right from the start, which is good. And you just opened your introduction, Julian. So we have Julian Troyan. He has been known under many different names: HR director, chief happiness officer, agile coach, lecturer. He's deeply passionate by the study of the right source of motivation. Happiness is the consequence, not the quest, he said. I admitted someone, so I have to go back to the bios. Half Italian, half Maltese, lived and worked across Europe, is fluent in 5 languages, and he enjoys studying innovative theories. He explores and considers different ways to put them in practice while riding his road bike. So thank you very much for riding all the way into our Zoom today. He has been recognized as HR Manager of the Year 2016 and Best HR Team in the same year, Best Internal Communication in 2015. So thank you, Julian. A pleasure having you with us today.
My pleasure.
So, without further ado, let's make good use of the time before us. And we will start off with the signature Hacking HR Luxembourg and Friends question. What do you think of when you hear the expression employee experience and engagement? And just this once, I will give you the floor in from left to right as you are on my screen. So Julian, you're first. What do you think of when you hear this expression?
Now, what I think when I hear employee experience, for me, it's a déjà vu. And maybe because I think here in this panel, there is a lot of progressive HR people. For us, this is not a surprise. We've been speaking about employee experience. We've been speaking about employee net promoter score. And these are all words or buzzwords which we are stealing from marketing and sales. So nobody was thinking about employees as real customers, even though lots of people have been preaching this for years and years, but this was really not a priority. And now, a few years ago, we started having the employee net promoter score. So would you recommend your company to your best friend? And in some of the surveys, as HR director, I saw some answers, no, I want to keep my good friends as such, which was not a good sign for the company. So you start seeing these kind of things. So now that, of course, we are forced to work from home and stay away, and suddenly companies realize that this is actually a very important thing. And my fear when I hear now everybody speaking about employee experience, I feel that it is a buzzword. So if there is no planning, so if you don't design employee experience for the purpose you want to serve, then you're planning to fail. And then it's just if you're telling people, well, I gave you the budget, so just do it. So that's really what is a bit scary for me. And to wrap up, I would say the intro for this is really that what I think is that HR has a huge opportunity, and more with these very difficult times, to become a strategic player. But to become a strategic player, you need to know what and where to look, because we have a lot of data, more and more. And the issue is, what do we do with all this data? And that's the issue. I think we're going to have an interesting discussion really about what to do with this information, how to manage it, and how to help leaders to change their way to lead teams which are remote, which are very often with their cameras off when they're speaking with other people. So it's a completely new world, and who is better positioned than HR to run this new organization? There's nobody. So we really have a great chance. So I see employee experience as a huge opportunity we should not miss.
Thank you, Julian. Nanda, what does employee experience and engagement mean to you?
Well, I'm gonna build on further on what Julian said. I think we have a great opportunity as an HR function for those that come from the function are on this call, because I was in another online workshop where somebody stated something very smart. In previous crises, it used to be the CFO who saved us. Now you talk about the CHRO. Yeah, and I think employee experience as such is something very personal to me. It's a very different experience in different companies. I come from 16 years in British American Tobacco, and there it was a key theme with a lot of engagement, with a lot of seeking feedback, listening and understanding what people need to thrive, and helping them in their development and growth, and really making sure that we got out of them what was in there. And also sometimes on the difficult end, making tough calls and when it didn't work, but creating that environment where people can thrive. At the moment, I'm in a company where we are really developing that. And what I'd like to say around 2020, we just got within a couple of days, we saw the light all of a sudden, we got it together as an HR team, something that we could have not imagined 2 years ago, because the company where I work today, CRH, is not as homogeneous as British American Tobacco. It's a lot of companies. There's 3,000 locations globally. Yeah. How do you connect that? How do you find the same purpose? And that's very, very different for each employee on a local level. So What can I say about that for myself? It means that I feel listened to, I feel understood, I have an opportunity to contribute. Now, I by nature am somebody that will give input, solicited or unsolicited, but that's not what everyone does. So how can you facilitate the process where you get the most out of all those different individuals in your company that you've hired because they've got great experience and competencies, and especially in the time of crisis where they're alone at home, where we're all feeling shit. I'm just going to call it as it is. Yeah, don't want to play about with that. Where we struggle and where what we need is to stick together, have this sense of belonging, and work together as a team to get through this. So we are implementing, just to close off that, sorry, a lot of tools to facilitate that. Surveys, team sessions, and really focusing on communication and engagement.
Thank you very much, Nanda. And now that was a great way to transition to Irene as a coach and clinical psychologist. How do you think about employee experience and engagement?
First of all, thank you for having me. When I hear the word employee engagement and experience, I will agree with Julian by saying that it just sounds like a buzzword. Because for a long time, those that have been in HR or in the coaching industry, we know that we're in the business of motivating people to give high performance at work. But how do they do that? They do that because they have to find a connection between their own personal values and the goals of the company. So what has changed since that time when the CFOs were leading the team? Now we have what Nanda said, the CHRs now wearing the cap and wanting, taking the ship to where it has to go. I see that there's a need now to reinvent what interaction means in every capacity, because before, where we're taking people as it was just human capital, people would come to work and they do their work. But now we need to see how will we motivate these people to bring out their best, to produce the highest performance so that we can make profit. So in a sense, what I'm hearing here when I look at, how will we bring successful to the company and how will we make employees happy, what I'm hearing is that we need to go to the core of what drives a person, what motivates a person to perform better. And this is where HR needs to really get involved to see how will personalities work now, what motivates people to work remote and really perform. So I see issues of challenging issues of getting to know what you call personality archetypes, which works. Why are you doing these jobs? So all the information that Julian was saying, that they did all these quizzes asking people, would you recommend somebody? This is the data information that HR has. So now trying to dissect that, to bring the connection between what will motivate everybody now to perform in the way that the capitalism, I say quotes, will continue to perform, because now we're seeing that there's a disintegration in how things were. And I do see that the foundation of employee interaction and engagement will come from understanding the product. The product is the employee, who is now the client of the companies. And that involves with understanding how people work, how do they feel remote working at home. Because I had a client this afternoon who is completely unhappy because for the whole last 1 year, there has not been any social interaction with a grown up apart from her kids. So that's another aspect we all need to start thinking about. How do we bring this well needed interaction that people go to work for, this social aspect, which helps people to thrive at work? Because some people go to work for social interaction. These are questions that I think we need to go deeper and now to start understanding how do people work emotionally and what drives them, what motivates them, instead of just looking at them as let's do what we have to do to produce this amount of profits at the end of the year. So engagement will really involve getting to hear what each person, each employee wants from the employer. And this has never been before, because it's been the other way around. The employer telling the employee what they need. But this time around is the employee saying that this is what I need for my well-being, for me being able to perform the way that you need me to perform. So it's a different dynamic, but yet we have all the information that we need to get this ship rolling, and HR people know how to handle this very well. So I will conclude it like that.
I would like to bounce directly on what you said, because I am also looking at the chat. There is a lot of discussions about the principle of engagement per se, and it is true that we have been a little bit spoiled or get used to having engagement surveys. Already, I completely disagree by the timing of engagement surveys, like once per year. I mean, how many times we pick up our phone per day to see notifications, right? And then we answer to the questionnaire and we get the answer 6 months later. In the meantime, COVID happened, lockdown happened, and we get the feedback on a world that is no longer there. So this is already a first topic. And then speaking just about engagement, for me, reduces the scope, because I really would take two examples. So what motivates Nanda to practice playing music and getting better to that? She's not getting any money, I suppose. You don't yet do concerts, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's the other thing. That's the ambition. Yeah.
Is a plan B.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
So what I mean is, who is convincing me to take my bicycle and go on a 100 kilometers ride when out there it's really cold? And we were speaking about the hills. I mean, she lives in Netherlands, so they can ride 100 kilometers with no hills. But try and do it here. So what motivates me to do it, right? So it's not a matter really of engagement, but it's the new concept that very few companies really try to consider, is the quality of motivation. And there is plenty of studies on the value of intrinsic motivation. So what companies sometimes forget is when they say, that guy is not engaged, or that guy is not motivated.
Yes.
So I think we have some psychologists in the panel here, and I'm pretty sure that nobody starts a job disengaged, unless, it's the alternative is to get shot or kicked. Take the job, So if you start a job and you're engaged, is because either you believe in the promises being made to you, or because you trust that this is the job that's going to fit you. So between the moment you start and you embrace a new job, you really want to give it all. And with the moment you become, as they say, disengaged, is it disengaged or disappointed? Because there is a gap between what's been promised and what you live. I give very often the example of a fast food. You go inside, you see amazing pictures of juicy, tasty burgers, and then you open the box. and that's exactly what happens in companies very, very often, and that's the difficult part, unless you're lucky. Go ahead.
No, that never happens. I'm sure that all of us here have always been extremely excited, and of course it does. Thank God. That's why we've got a job, right? And a very important role. Yeah.
I tend to find that normally when people start their job, they're excited because it's a relief, isn't it? Oh my God, I'm going to be able to pay my bills. So eventually that wears off when you discover what Julian was saying, is that the promises are not meeting up to the expectations. And one thing that came up yesterday in my goal setting sessions is that one of my client, who's an entrepreneur, brought her intern with her to set goals. And this is something that hit me, because most of the time when you start a job with a manager or something, of course you're giving the brief, you're given, okay, this is how you're going to do, you talk, but you're never really sat down with your direct manager to set the goals of the team and to align those goals with your life purpose as you as a person, to be able to bring the two together for that, that quality of motivation. Because I
Yeah.
think that's what wears off for most people eventually as they carry on with their job, is that I'm just doing this, but I would like to do that. So linking these two is what I think would also bring employee experience, is that this quality of motivation is missing, because goal setting is not usually what the managers sit down with. They sit in a big chair and you explain, but it's never really taken to that level where it's taken underneath into personality and how that personality is going to perform towards that goal. So this is something that energy should spend on, or interaction and communication, and seeing how, and people feel motivated with that. They feel heard, like you said, Nanda. The feeling
Yeah.
heard.
Thank you very much for this round of conversation. And we've been talking a little bit about the main changes occurring within the dimension of employee engagement and experience over the last year. If you were to look um, over this past period, what would you say is the number one change that occurred with absolutely critical impact on this dimension?
I will start with social interaction.
Mm.
Yeah.
I Most people go to work for different reasons. For the quality of the work, like nurses go to work because it's a calling. Some people go to work for the building, how it makes them feel. They work in an important company, like those work at Google, for the content. And some people go to work literally to make a living and to social interaction. So for the majority of this kind of people that really go to work to have that sense of community interaction, it's been a big blow, and depression has kicked in, and anxiety, as in, are we
Yeah.
going to go back to that, as companies are now reviewing whether people would just stay at home because it's much more profitable and affordable, and people are performing more because they're scared of their jobs. So I feel that that's been the social interaction. It's been a big, for me in my work. That's what I've noticed, at least.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What
Yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, if I can add that something to that, and it came across some of your previous statements already. It's for me really, again, if I give you a personal example, because I'm not just a talent director at CRH, I'm also Nanda, and I experienced this myself. I had once a very good teacher who is actually a surgeon, and he taught me something very interesting. He said at some point to me, you know, when we are being taught our profession, we have a papa surgeon. Fascinating, huh? Not a coach, but they call it literally a papa. And I'm like, what do you mean? Okay. Then he said, what I learned from him is to connect first and foremost with my patients on level 1, which is human to human. Second level, yeah, I am a professional surgeon and I will use all my skills, competencies, and knowledge to heal the patient. Third, I may be commercially minded because I have a private practice. But never ever, excuse my French, fuck up that equation, because it doesn't work. And I have been repeating this little example and just a chat I had over WhatsApp with him like 2 years ago, and it's very, very relevant. And what I've seen happening because of everyone being in a completely new situation, you know, on average it takes 9 months, I think, to adapt and change your behavior. Now we had to do that literally in days. You're looking for help and support, and you want to feel that connection closer to someone. So the process of being vulnerable, which is also a very interesting concept, and really just saying it as it is, helps us so much, because we're made of all these emotions, and that's what we are. I see Irene laughing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Julian, what would you add?
I would add that my experience between what I saw at ING and what I saw in other companies that were, I would say, not so lucky like ING, is many companies, people started seeing the king is naked. How many companies have mission statements, values, purpose, which are written everywhere, but nobody knows them? They're part of the furniture. You don't see them anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And so the moment that you are basically unplugged from the day-to-day of the company, most of companies, or and many managers really have had no clue. And the mistake that many companies did is, okay, we're going to give them an agile framework because we're going to solve some of the issues, because they're going to have ceremonies and stuff they need to stick to do the job or to get the job done. But they forget that if you do not have the alignment, where do we need to go? And what is the short-term result? Is again the example of the diet. You don't start a diet in January and step on the scale in December to see how you've done, right? It's very likely that you have success. So this is something that happens. So the example I can give you in ING is that getting the job done is only one part of what is expected of you. It's only 1/3 actually of your 2 times per year evaluation. One other third is how well you live the values and purpose of the bank. And you are kept accountable to this. You, your manager, his manager, and the manager of the manager, which means that these are not things that managers can easily think, oh, this is just HR, softy, feely, touchy, whatever. This is a part of who you need to be. The Orange Code is something that is important for about 55,000 people, which means sometimes when you have a meeting, when you have a situation which is tense, people don't judge people by their behavior. They will just say, this is not really Orange Code. And you put a topic on the desk. So the fact that you have at least a framework which is seen as good or bad just because it's in or it's out, this type of behaviors, is helping you to set a framework, and which this is only a part. There is a huge amount of other variables, but if you don't get the basics fixed, you can have all the amazing frameworks of the world. You can have as many agile coaches as you want, but it's just not going to work because people are a bit lost and they don't know, where to look at. And we don't have to forget that the bar is always set by the highest level in the company. So what is tolerated by the high management is going to be tolerated across all the company.
So building on this, and every each of you touched a little bit on culture.
Mhm.
So as you look within your own environment and you look at your own experiences and your own expertise, and with all these disruptions unfolding and having the rise of the gig economy, so a lot of different relationship setups within the organization, and you will have people working from home and people working on site, and a lot of combinations of this. Um, do we still need one or a company culture to keep people, engaged, or how do you see this sense of belonging being created?
Can I start?
Yes.
It's a long one.
I see we can do this. We covered the panel from one end to another.
Yeah, so my answer, so my opinion is definitely yes, with a big but, with one T only. And it's the fact that you can have the culture, which is very important. And you must have also the clear direction that goes with the culture. So you cannot have a culture and then objectives that contradict really what you promise you stand for. So that's one of the things you really need to pay attention to. What we see happening is that we need tools to basically create an anchor between what we do and the goals of the company, sticking to the culture. So today there are ways to do this, because even if you have companies that are able to set a clear culture and you said, okay, I love this company because of what it represents, it's not enough to keep people with the right type of motivation. How do we get people to understand that my job, especially now that you're remote, how am I contributing to that final figure? Because at the end of the day, we're here to make profit, right? We want to be successful so we can keep our jobs, stakeholders happy, clients happy, everybody happy.
Yep.
So how do you link this? And that's the crucial part. So for example, don't know if anybody in the room is working with objectives and key results. So you have the possibility really to with some tools which are modern, even 20 years old, you have the possibility for each single person to know exactly how my weekly activities are contributing to the quarterly objectives. And you can even sort of quantify it economically. So if you create this kind of flow and you have the culture to support behavior so that people stay straight to those, it's very likely that you have a different type of dynamics, because working from remote is pushing companies to create smaller teams. We know that it's a mathematical calculation. You have 20 people, you multiply the number of potential interactions, you already lost with numbers. You have a team of 6, 7 people, it's easy to keep everybody accountable. And that's a very good step. But the other day, everybody is speaking, we want to have autonomous teams, self-organized teams that know exactly where to go. But if you don't give them tools to check if their little boat is navigating in the right direction, it's very likely that after a couple of weeks, you are completely lost from destination. And then realigning is a very tough effort. So I would say culture, yes, but not enough. There's a lot that goes together with that. But without culture, the risk of selfish behaviors and stepping on each other's feet is very high.
I would add on to that. Yes, culture is necessary, but like Julian said, it's not the only thing, because inside culture, if you're gonna work properly with the dynamics that you have, there's also something that is playing inside those dynamics, which is collective identity. So let's say a team of 7 is working together. This team needs to find what is the glue behind them. And what I find interesting when it comes to culture is that if there's nothing common, nothing collective between the people inside that culture, it presents its own difficulties, like Julian said, some selfish behaviors. Um, is culture necessarily at work for this time that things have changed? Main culture, because the way I see it, there will be a main culture that the company presents. But in those teams that are small, working by themselves, will they, would, so my question is, are we going to start seeing subcultures inside the big culture of the company as people work remotely alone in their own groups, in small groups? And what will those subcultures create? Will some cultures, be successful, and will some cultures not work? And what will contribute to the success of those cultures? I mean, these are questions that I'm presenting to the group if you want to speak about it. But I do believe that having an umbrella that has everything, like a culture, because everything that we are is guarded by culture. Where I come from, I have a culture. Where you come from, everything is.
Yeah.
So to disregard it as something that is not vital for the success of a company is also not clever. But what I'm wondering is that with the remote working, people, these groups that are working in smaller groups, will they start to create subcultures? And what will drive those subcultures? And eventually, what will that lead to? Success or not? And will that disintegrate the company as a whole, or will it bring it together? And who will do that? Who will keep everybody together, feeling that they're together? This togetherness, this sense of belonging. So these are the questions that just came up discussing this question for me.
Thank you, Irene.
Yes.
I have an image that regroups what you just said. I don't know if is it possible to share an image here.
I don't think so.
It's
Can you maybe share the link on the chat?
the link. It's from a Swedish company called Crisp. They have a lot of amazing material. So I'm going to share the link. It's really the 4-3-2-1 team success factors. And basically, if you get those fixed, which is not easy, you're done. You're good.
Well, listening to what you all said, there's a lot of redesign and adaptation inside. A lot of it driven and or enabled by HR. So my next question to you is, how do you see this redesign and adaptation of the workplace, whatever that might look like, or whatever they might be moving forward? So what is the adaptation of the workplace going to be in order for it to be healthy and safe, covering all the meanings of these words? And Nanda, I would ask you to share some thoughts on that.
To be perfectly honest, the honest answer is we don't know yet. And I don't know. With a lot of colleagues at CRH at the moment, we're getting a lot of questions from out the whole region. I mean, I work for Europe. What can we do around well-being and mental health for our employees? What are we going to put in place for them? We've unfortunately dealt with losses. Yeah, we have large factories with teams working closely together, and we lost lives. We still today have 3 people that are on ICU. You know, please pray that they get out of that alive. So we are really dealing with these daily crises and struggles, whereas this question obviously is very relevant and we need to look at. What we've started doing is much more bottom-up engagement. And Zorica, actually, she's in Serbia, was in one of these sessions. So if you want to, please, you know, join in and say something about that. But we literally put the theme of this workshop, we kicked it off and we made it alive, and we did a session with the president of the division, who spent 2 hours on that, the SVP HR Europe, and myself, talking to 25 managers, employees across Europe to say, what is it that you need to feel well and to make this workplace, let's say, more inclusive? So really listening to them, what do you think we can accelerate? Now, lots of great input, big brainstorming, and now we need to filter that out and see what are the things we can do. I'll come back to my previous point. The challenge with CRH is it's 3,000 locations worldwide. It's not a homogeneous company. So it is something that really relates to local setting. And that's the feedback that we got back. We have one key opportunity, and that is being a company that works with such large machines, we have a culture of safety. Yeah, safety in terms of making sure that you follow protocols. We train all our frontline leaders on that very diligently. And the question is, what can we do with that discipline in this domain? And we haven't found the answer yet, here and now, today. We're working on it, yeah? With a new function on a global level called well-being. And if I'm right, Jody also dialed in today. So feel free, yeah? That's what I can say about that here now today. Work in progress.
Thank you, Nanda. That's very, very straightforward. Now, from the psychological safety and the mental health and the overall well-being perspective, Irene, I believe one of the best things that um, this whole disruption brought about was normalizing conversations around our emotional life and our deep emotional being and you know how that ties into our work and that how ties into our life. So when you look at the healthy and safe environment moving forward for better employee experience, what are your thoughts on that?
What when Nanda was talking about well-being, because I am writing copies to now put to corporates about the very same topic, well-being. The very first thing that came in my mind is how culturally it was unacceptable to show emotions at work before, and how much of that will be allowed to come to the workspace where someone wants to express themselves. Would there be a space in HR where people will come to become emotionally vulnerable? Because this is a quality that was never really taken into account when it comes to the corporate culture. So when I look at well-being and well-being at work, I think we need to start thinking or looking at how emotionally intelligent are people. I mean, looking at emotion as how much which emotions are acceptable at work, and how much vulnerable do we allow people to be vulnerable? Because all this, what Corona has done is that it has allowed us to be so fearful of our future and so anxious about
Yeah.
anything and everything, our work, our lives, and everything. And it's like we're also trying to adapt minute by minute. Will I get fired if I show my emotions? If I see that I can't work, I can't cope. I mean, one example that I can give is that working in group dynamic is very interesting because in some groups you find monochromes, in some groups you find polychromes. I am a polychrome. I think I have all the time in the world. So reaching deadlines is a bit of an interesting challenge, but I get there because I'm creative. But then you have these monochromes that are like, let's get it, let's get it. For the well-being of this understanding the dynamics of personality, I think the key in companies and indeed corporate world is that we need to start taking personalities and characters and understanding them. How does this person fit in with this person, and how will they achieve these goals? And goal setting should be at the middle of it, because all we want is to be profitable so I can keep my job, the boss gets paid, the shareholder gets paid. And the driving thing in there is the emotional aspect of it. So if the person feels that I've been heard, I have been understood emotionally, and I'm allowed to be human. This
Yeah.
thing, this book I was reading, just to be allowed to be human in any space is what is going to change the face of the corporate world. Because the old way of being tough and strong and not showing your face when things are breaking down, when goals are going down the drain, it's not going to what's going to cut it. So they, I'm going to say this word, the corporate world needs to become more open-minded to the human aspect, which is the emotional aspect. What is this? That's what motivates anybody to become better and good at what they do. So that's how I see it. That's how I see the move forward in the well-being at work, in the health and safety, to allow people to be humans, to express themselves. That's needed in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what can you concretely do? I mean, we've already mentioned some surveying. We have actually decided that for the first time ever, we're going to launch a global organizational health index survey just to learn and listen. Yeah, so to build further on some of the things we did last year. And I think that's a good thing. And obviously, that's only as powerful as what you do with it in the end. And if you position that as, we want to know now, but we want to know in 2 years, have we progressed?
Yes, yes.
And
I
on, on this topic, what really comes to my mind is an example of what we did in a previous company before having this mess that needed to be taken care of with COVID. And what we are trying to realize right now is that what was used to be considered good to have, like the soft skills, is now becoming a must have.
yes.
Well
And
said.
I was trying, but whenever I'm going to have the time, I'm going to finish this article I was trying to write down, which is called "Soft is the New Hard."
Yeah.
This is something which is happening. So what I realize is very often leaders who are extremely skilled in the hard part of the job are honestly ignorant, and it's not in a negative concept. They're really ignorant on the effect of stress. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure Beatrice knows this book. It's Why Zebras Don't Have Ulcera. And it's a great book about the effects and the impact of stress on the human body. And unfortunately, we are part of the evolution, and our body doesn't understand that between uh, a bad colleague or a bad boss and a fire or an animal attacking us, there is a huge difference, but the body doesn't understand this. So the thing is, we are creating situations, and especially now with COVID, if I stopped watching the news because all you get is negative, how many companies are closing down, how many people are losing job, unemployment rates are going up, how many death cases, how many new ill people. This is creating even more and more stress. This is adding to the previous stress we had to get our job done. And the concept of psychological safety is something which is really not followed enough. I did some research before this panel today, and on LinkedIn, I don't know how many users we have on LinkedIn. I think we are well over 1 billion, right?
Yeah.
So there are got some figures here. We have 160,000 people following the topic agile, which is interesting. Something which is fast growing is employee experience, buzzword. Now we have 33,000 people following this hashtag. Psychological safety, and consider the total amount of people on LinkedIn, so over a billion,
Yeah.
2,285 people. It's nobody knows that this topic is the key to get the magic happen in companies. The example I can give you, we have some analysis that we do on a quarterly basis. We came to the end of the year with a crazy rush, thanks to the European bodies asking banks to be safer and safer and safer, which is good. I'm also a client, so I'm not defending the banks, the evil banks, or whatever. But I can tell you that to get to the end of the year with the score of the IT risk acceptable by the European Central Bank, everybody was really going not the extra mile, the extra marathon to get it done. So we did the survey at the end of the year of several topics, and most of the squads, we work in squads, tribes, so it's forget about it, but most of the teams had the energy level clearly going down. Now I follow 6 of these squads. Now 3 of them had the energy levels going up. Now these, I am doing some analysis on these squads. What happened there? No turnover, meaning that these squads, and I'm not saying turnover because of people leaving, shuffling, this project approach to running companies, which is for me a nightmare because you have to restart all over from scratch. But so the team stayed stable. A great PO who is the leader of the team, who is not the hierarchical leader of these people. So you have people that are just expressing what they need to do. And a high level of trust that didn't come by itself. We worked on building trust. And there are tools and you can gamify the trust growth, the fact that people know each other. So these 3 squads had similar situations, so low turnover, a very good PO with high levels of emotional intelligence, protecting their squads from the bad weather coming from other squads and dependencies, reducing the level of dependency from these people to get the job done. So they created a safe harbor where people could really enjoy doing the job. And so when the senior leadership saw all the results, I think we speak about 30 squads, and 3 squads had energy levels going up. I say, Julian, is there something wrong in your figures? I say, no. So it's something wrong in the others. So you have to create the conditions for people to feel excited and empowered while they're doing the job. So it is possible, even working from remote, but it takes a lot of variables. And unfortunately, sometimes it's really hard to get the leaders to understand that they need to stop and listen, that we need to do things in a different way with science. So it's not just trust me, I can show you that this works.
Yeah.
It's really inspiring to hear you talk about energy, and that's a word that comes up more and more during conversations. And while writing this week's Tuesday article on change management, I remembered a piece in Harvard Business Review back in October 2007 called "Manage Your Energy, Not Your Time," and it is built on the hypothesis that time is a finite resource, whereas energy is a different conversation. And there are 4 key origins of energy. You have, of course, the body, which gives you the physical energy, and then you have your emotions, which is all about the quality of your energy. You have the mind that gives that energy a focus, and then you have the spirit, which is basically the energy that comes from a sense of purpose and meaning. And if you learn how you can tap into these 4 springs of energy, then everything around you changes, and how you go about your work and how you go about your work life changes. Also, Julian, you touched on the, let's call it stability and safety of the team. So just think of a mobile phone. One of the key drainers of a battery is when the phone searches for coverage, when the coverage signal is poor, or where the Wi-Fi signal is poor. So the more you need to find where you belong to and what you can connect to, the quicker the battery dies. I picked up along the conversations some keywords. So my question to you, and I would really, really encourage everybody, just if you want to contribute, unmute yourself. We can come up with a structured approach to this, but let's stay agile. How do you see and how would you describe the dynamics along the purpose, leadership, and belonging within the dimension of employee experience? So you have purpose, leadership, and belonging. How do you see these elements in their dynamic?
I could start from a very holistic approach, continuing with the conversation about energy. Um, it is true indeed that if energy is not managed properly, nothing goes anywhere. And when it comes to managing energy, it means that you have to be in a better place yourself, in a sense of belonging. So if your team makes you feel good, you can breathe properly instead of having this or this nervousness that I'm not being heard. And you have a sense of, you eat well, you sleep well, you meditate. Then I feel that management of your energy when it comes to the a sense of purpose leadership, connecting your own values, you as a person, because I have my own values. My value is to make sure that my value is happiness. I want to be happy in everywhere, in every situation. So if I feel that I'm at work, I am happy, then I'm linking my value with my purpose, and since I'll feel a sense of belonging, and especially if that company has made it clear or I understand the company values that are in line with mine. Um, how to redefine it and connect it? I do believe that companies need to now start looking at each person has got their inner values, their being values. Those need to be connected with what the company's values are in order to achieve what is the main goal, to make profit. But leaving the person out of this, for me, it's a bit tricky. Everyone needs to be heard. And of course, there's a lot of science, a lot of information out there, and there's actually an information overload about what we should do, what we shouldn't be doing. But what I'm trying to say here, even though I've mumbo jumbled what I'm trying to say because I have so many in my head, I don't know if you noticed that.
It makes sense from our
Yes.
side. From my side, it makes sense. Continue. It's okay. You got this.
So what I'm trying to say, in my visionary mind, because of the question is to redefine the interconnection among, purpose, leadership, and belonging. And for me, I want to come from Carol Rogers' point of view. Positive regard. The person is the number one, and if the person is not given the knowledge, the understanding, then it's a bit difficult to identify yourself in any space. So the corporate world needs to start taking the the new age, I call it new age in brackets, of
Yeah.
well-being, meditation, helping people to eat well, bringing in, breathing meditation. I know a lot of people. I can give you a very good example. I used to be a compliance officer before I became what I am. I made my corporate career in risk management. And every time before I stepped in my just before I got to my office, my heart used to beat so hard, and I used to wonder why. Why am I beating so? What am I nervous of? And I'll stay with this interesting heartbeat rate and this breathing until I left the office. That's not funny. That's not
No.
funny at all. And eventually I got sick and I had a miscarriage, and it was just like, no, I gotta leave this place. So people need to learn to breathe properly because breath is life. And this is something that corporate world could open up their mind, having this kind of things, teaching people these very basic soft skills. Of course, it's going to be like, but everybody knows to breathe. No, we don't. After a certain age, we forget to breathe properly. And food, this eating at the desk because you want to meet goals, that has to stop. That is an education in itself to help people manage their own lives. And sleeping, are people sleeping well? Perhaps creating a department. We have hundreds and thousands of life coaches that have no jobs. Why is the corporate world not getting one well-educated life coach, the agiles or people like me, and giving us a job where we can help with the soft skills and increase the performance? And this meditation, having these microphones where you just sit and meditate for 10 minutes when you're stressed, that would help. That is part of redefining their purpose, the leadership, and feeling a sense of family. For me, belonging means being part of a family. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying in my vague self.
I can feel a lot of engagement behind this this conversation.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. I mean, it's about daring to care, right? You
Definitely.
hear that everywhere, secure-based leadership, but that's the job. And last year in CRH, we started with, as I said earlier, with a well-being team. I think Jodie's here, but I'm not 100% sure. And we did some great stuff. We showed that we cared. We had never done that before. We're not reaching everyone, but we're making big steps. We did resilience workshops. People loved that. 2 hours just for you. Sit back, reflect. What am I doing well? And very personal for each individual to look at what things have impacted my life and gave me so much stress. And it's not okay, but it's okay that I accept that I've dealt with that and that I can and I come out of it. We are at the moment in the middle of a global fitness challenge with 53 teams. People, there's a competitive element in there, but it's obviously more so that people on a daily basis do sports and they share all sorts of photos. Since last week, Monday, I mean, the fitness part is wonderful, that you're fit, but the side effect of 53 teams of 6 or 7 people all talking the whole day about this thing is creating something beautiful.
Interacting.
Yes, they love it. Yeah. So it gives a bit of light and perspective, and as a large corporate, you can also do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. You can care. And
Yes.
care part of it. It's if like I saw that companies sometimes they have their own gym room where they can go and exercise. Why not have a Zen room where you have a coach there that has the soft skills trained for that to do
Yeah.
that, not relying on the manager to also be coaching the people on these things. It's too much. There's a reason why now coaching should be taken seriously, because it's a life skill, and it's here to stay. It's not
Yeah.
psychology. It's coaching. The very meaning of coaching is to boost performance. So why not include more, an in-house coach that deals with your employees. They can call and say, okay, Irene, at one time I'm going to call you and speak about you for 10 minutes because I'm feeling overwhelmed. This kind of thing is performance. I'm just saying that the corporate world needs to now become more open-minded.
We started discussing, I would say, comparing to the average our organization, extreme topics like positive psychology, for example. And it was one of my stretch ambitions for the year, because this is the other third part of your evaluation. And I dare to say, okay, I dare to train 50 people in the bank on positive psychology. And this was happening at the end of the year, where everybody was under the pressure I told you about. So 50 was my goal, and I thought I really was shooting too high. So we had 96 people turned up in 2 sessions, and I need to do another one. So there is a great interest in understanding not only how to fix what's broken, because when you have a lot of psychological unsafety, you get burnouts, people that are overly stressed. And if you check the amount of hours lost due to psychological illnesses, if compared to physical illnesses, unfortunately, the figures are not gentle on that. So people are getting interested on how to get people feel better, so they deliver better. And this is something new. So I was surprised that most of the people that reacted were not soft soft skills experts. I was speaking to technical people, to IT people, to leaders, to employees, people asking me for more material. When can we speak more about these things? So they want to understand, how can we translate this into work? And we did use in Netherlands when I was there for some exercise, and in a couple of squads in Luxembourg, we did start some meetings with 5 minutes, not more than that, of mindfulness as an exercise. It was setting really the stage for a different approach to that meeting. And some people can smile. Some people think that this is useless or this is corporate bullshit, as some people say. But once you try it, you feel different. At the end of my workshop, I always give a very simple exercise. And I saw people in tears after the exercise, which means that it's emotional. So you are allowing emotions to come into the company. It's not a taboo anymore. It's something that we need because we need to be able to attach ourselves to something different. 50 years ago, we were all attached to the entrepreneurs. Italy is a country of small and medium companies with great entrepreneurs, and people were getting their psychological safety sticking to these inspiring and charismatic people. The second, third generation cannot reach what these people did. So we need a new paradigm for psychological safety. And again, so we go back to the question. Yes, we need a connection to the culture as long as the culture is truth. And if there is truth on what the culture really is, means that you are building a culture of trust. And when you have a culture of trust, it means that you are open for discussions. I trust my best colleagues. I trust my best friends. I'm not afraid to say I disagree and have an open discussion on that. When you don't have trust, you have fake meetings. And discussion happen at the coffee machine a couple of hours later.
There were some roles and titles mentioned, and the generic they and we. So as I was listening to this conversation, a question popped in my mind. Where does the ownership and accountability and role modeling of employee experience and engagement stays?
Can you
Who,
rephrase that?
yeah, who should be, if there is such a situation where there is a responsibility or an accountability for driving employee experience and engagement, where does that sit?
You're stealing my end line with all of us. We are all responsible. We can all start after this workshop with showing what it should be by asking our colleagues in the moment that we struggle, which I think I can firmly say I can't talk to everyone on this call, but in all our different ways, you know, we're either home alone or we're married with kids and we need to do schooling. We had COVID or not, we lost someone or not, we're struggling. So the set of questions that you can ask every colleague as from jumping off this call is, how are you doing today? What are you afraid of? Can I do something for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Hearing again.
Yes.
But there, if I may answer here, there's the difference that need to happen to do something with that answer to the question and not just like going further to business as usual. That is often what is missing. Not only asking, oh, how are you doing, or what do you need, then also like doing something with what is coming.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Action, isn't it? You know what I find interesting when we ask the question of who is responsible for this, I always go back to the very first foundation of happiness, and that is to take personal responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, to get into ourselves and say, what am I responsible? What is my responsibility here?
Yeah.
Because there's also a culture of self-pity and I can't do anything and all this. Yeah, there is all that. We are all going through a very tough time. But dipping deeper and saying, I am capable. I'm not all hopeless as a person, and really looking to find that personal responsibility within and owning it, not only just taking the response, but owning it with actions.
Yeah.
Where when somebody asks you, how are you feeling? You're not going to go and say, oh, I'm fine. It's okay. But you really, say, no, I'm not feeling well. Being honest with yourself. I feel like this. that's your responsibility, because the other person is not God. He's not going to read your mind. And, you know, they don't have any time to start digging deeper. You know, time is very special. So when somebody asks you, how are you feeling? Don't go playing it shallow. Yes, I'm not feeling well. Open the
I
conversation.
feel shit. Yeah.
It's all gone down the drain. Say it. Then the person will feel more inclined to speak to you. They'll have time for you. But if you lie, say, I'm fine. No, that's your responsibility. So we all have to be honest with what we're feeling when we're asked, how you feeling? And say the
But
truth.
you know, to be able to do that, we need two things. First of all, you need to have a situation where you feel safe,
Yeah.
that nobody's going to laugh at you, or you know, you really have to feel in an area that you say, okay, I can speak up honestly and be myself. And what I realized is most of the people have been told off to hold such type of behaviors where you really are yourself.
Exactly.
Starting from the dress codes, starting from what is admitted and what's not admitted. HR are hated by lots of people because we are those that have to write the silly rules to cover for the worst case scenario of the asshole rule. So there is always the asshole behaving badly. So we need to create stupid rules to prevent. Just take the example of the car policy. You need to make it so specific because you're always going to have the guy who's going to find the model which is in between the two admitted levels of cars you have. And then you need to arbitrate and all these kind of things. So, for example, what I'm working on is to give a sort of roadmap of progressive exercises for people to get used to using tools which are linked to positive psychology. And for I took a study which was carried out in the John Hopkins University, and they used positive psychology to get a bunch of heavily ill people, so heart ill people, to recover. So most of the people, over 90%, after the surgery would go back to the bad habits that got them to become ill and need the surgery. And they were able to make a study on 340 people, more or less. And they created an 8 weeks program for these people based on positive psychology. And so it was all an area of discovery of the effects of this kind of behavior. Instead of telling, if you don't change, you're going to die, it was turning it around to say, look how good this could be. And so I took this study. So they were kind enough to send it to me because of my idea was to transfer the same type of exercises by adapted to the corporate world. Because most of the companies, they pay lots of money to great consultants. And after a few weeks, the manager's okay, the holiday is over, let's go back to work as usual. Okay, so if you want to give it a try, just ask people for a week to pick a few of their colleagues when we are back in the office, okay, and write a little post-it with your hand to say thank you or to say a good thing about a colleague that means something for you. And try to do that before basically you leave and the person already left. So that's the first thing that a person sees when they come to the office. These are really little things to start with in a longer path of applying principles. I tried this, not exactly this, but I tried them different in Germany. I was part of the management team of this very, very traditional, structured German type of company. If anybody's German here, don't think I married a German, so I know my things. And before leaving, I took one little Nutella, the mini one portion Nutella in the hotel, right? So I came in the office very, very early, and they knew that there was one of the girls in the customer service who is crazy for Nutella. I think she's a shareholder. And so I put on the keyboard before she arrived this Lily one-shot Nutella. And we started meetings. And for example, instead of starting the meetings normally, I usually start the meetings with what went well. Okay, so you set the stage for people to focus on something good.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how she reacted. What went? You don't know what happened today, she said. Everybody was expecting something huge, right?
Yeah.
there was a portion of Nutella on my desk. Like, yeah, everybody was laughing. I can tell you that these teams, a few months before, they would to come with their, with their focus fully on, what do we need to do today. So you can set the stage. And if anybody has studied a little bit how the brain is working, there is no room for bad emotions and good emotions at the same time. So if you force them with some tricks in good faith,
Yeah.
to get people to focus on the good, you get a different type of starting meetings and getting things done. So it takes time. This is why I mean 8 weeks, it's a lot, but you're not asking people to work. You're just asking people to do things in a different way for some time. Give it a try. It cannot be worse than it is today, right?
Well, thank you very, very much for bringing Nutella into the conversation.
Everybody's smiling as soon as you say
Yes, this gives a positive spin to the conversation, especially as I'm mindful of time. Unfortunately, we could have been here for another hour and a half. So before we open the floor to the audience, one question: what excites you most about the future of employee experience and engagement? Now building on the positive Nutella vibe, what excites you most as you look into the future?
For me, it's the ultimate opportunity for the HR function to show the value add. There's no debate anymore. They cannot do this without us. I've been saying this for the last 23 years, and now it's there. The situation is there. We have to grab it.
I
Yes.
told you.
And also,
Yeah.
it's also an opportunity for me that has invested 10 years of my life in positive psychology, in happiness and well-being, to bring it to work. Because one of the reasons I left my work is because I was unhappy, and I want to bring back to the corporate world and help thousands, and just as many people as I can help to find joy and happy at work. So I think this is a very good opportunity where HR can work with soft skill experts like us, and bring this ship to a nice dock where everybody will live out of the ship feeling like they've had a good holiday at the sea, because at the moment everyone is at the sea, and we need to go to land with these ideas about how to bring joy and happiness and well-being at work. So it's going to be good times for polychromes and monochromes working together and bringing creativity and new structures and new ways, new processes. It doesn't have to be the rigid way of,
No, humans don't fit these boxes. I certainly don't fit, and I don't want to fit. Yeah.
No. So I'm very excited about the future.
Yeah, I'm excited too, with the strong feeling that we cannot miss this opportunity, because there's not going to be a bigger opportunity than this one. Everybody's asking to us, and we are not answering only with opinions. There is science behind what we're talking about. There are statistics. It's time that HR works closely with marketing. You want to design employee experience? Let's use design thinking. Let's use tools which are not HR. We need to see figures. Why don't we speak with finance? Why don't we finally, for example, decide that we move payroll from HR and we give it to finance? Does it belong to payroll? Does it belong to HR? Not sure. What does really HR need to do? Employee experience, creating the right conditions for people to blossom.
Yeah.
And I always hated that part of the HR job where I had to deal with admin, little mistakes. And this is really the boring part. Where do we excel? Where do we have fun? The fun is really in everything we've been talking about today. I mean, we're speaking here almost an hour and a half. I didn't realize how fast time goes.
Yes.
So it's...
Well, we have 10 minutes, and I would very, very much want to listen to positive and not so positive employee experiences. So if anyone wants to share some personal journeys through this dimension, or stories from friends, that's That would be awesome to hear. I see friendly faces, recording people. So please just unmute and share. Let's see a bit of audience engagement at this moment. Or maybe one of the speakers want to share a personal example of a really good employee experience.
Come on, guys. I see so many interesting comments
Yes,
in the chat.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
We have Sven.
You also speak up.
I agree.
Feel
I think
free.
people are afraid to speak.
This is a safe environment, so we should practice what we preach.
I can share a bit. I don't know if it's that relevant. I used to work with Julian, actually. He was my manager. I hear some back noise. I don't know where it comes from. Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, so I joined a company when where Julian was working, and to be honest, this is what gave me faith about HR, and that we were not here just to, hire, pay, and dismiss, because this is how we are sometimes perceived by others. And so now I left also that company, and from what I saw, I agree that HR should not be doing finance, but the relationship between HR and finance is important because we need some basics. We need to have people paid fairly and on time, etc. before we do, I would say, nice stuff around this. And for me, what is really important is leadership. As HR, as head of HR, VP HR, you can do whatever you want. If you don't have the CEO working with you on this and all the management team, it's not gonna work. And for me, as I can see, sometimes people are like, yeah, it's good, but the CEO doesn't care. The CEO, he's doing his things, he doesn't care about us, about his employees, etc. So it has to come from people, but also you have to lead by example and show that you're not just a number and not just here to work, bring money, and that's it. And yeah, this is what is important for me. I don't know if you guys agree.
Thank
you, Sophie, for sharing. Sven, I saw you unmuted yourself.
Yes, indeed, because maybe coming back, I'm just putting myself in the chair of somebody listening to the wonderful panel today, but thinking like, okay, I'm in a traditional organization. I don't know how to start things up because yes, we have so many wonderful ideas and things here. And I'm always saying like start where also an employee experience is starting. Start with new joiners in an organization. They are free from any of these things what is already there. And they might tell you what is missing or what do they feel, what do they realize. So start really with the people who are starting fresh in an organization and follow them, or even tell them, oh, why not to write every evening just 5 lines or whatever, how this day was, and build up from that in discussion with HR and with the teams that are working in, how can we change that, or what can we do to make it a nice start of that experience. And the same goes for the leaving. So when somebody is leaving, I have to say, I worked in a lot of company. I didn't have in one company a really valuable leaving or exit interview where they listened to what I had to say. It's really like strange. I read a lot about it in literature or I hear it in discussion, but from my perspective, I never experienced it. So starting from that two ends to say from an employee experience, it gives so much opportunities to improve something.
Thank you, Sven. Did I see correctly? iPhone Fun Flip wanted to contribute. I see an unmuted box.
May I?
come in.
I have a question to all of us. Where are the examples, the winning examples? We can deliberate about many items, but where is it going as it should go? For instance, I heard something that it depends on the style of management if HR is successful, yes or no. So I think in the future, HR must consider that HR is not only HR is general management.
Yes.
And that's a discussion I hardly heard, that the top of the company should not be finance, it should be HR.
Yeah,
That's
I like that.
I like that. I like that.
Unfortunately, it's not true.
I like it.
Unfortunately, HR is still a commodity.
I like
No,
it.
I don't agree with that.
So
I have a strong example. In one of the biggest companies in the Netherlands, the National Post Office, a lady who had HR responsibility for many years internationally, she became the CEO. And that's a strong example. And
you already have a very, sorry.
Yeah.
So you have very strong examples, Luxembourg too. Remember Viviane Hanoir, which is a great lady, very inspiring lady. But if you take a look on big companies, I used to work with large companies, but you have 150,000 people, big global, and you take a look on the HR department, it's 20 people. And you ask the people, do you know HR people? No, never met them. And so just people focusing on transaction. And the problem, unfortunately, there are huge challenges on leadership. There are huge challenges in transformation. We're speaking now about continuous organization development, which are typically HR topics. And unfortunately, HR is not available, is not open. Thus thinking about processes, hiring, legal status, or just transaction. And this has to be shifted because even in big companies, you have the former line managers that are becoming now people managers, meaning they're doing HR work. Or when you mentioned, Julian, the shuttle leads, which are actually people managers. And so it's moving away from the HR.
But I think that you are raising a very important point. We don't have the right people for the type of HR we're talking about. What you are talking about, these are people, admin people. And of course, you cannot ask these people today to run the agile transformation or to be able to transform the company because simply they have no clue. I don't know how many times I speak with people, and in Luxembourg especially, the average HR population is pretty gray and dusty. So they don't even understand what we're talking about. In Italy, it's quite similar. I was speaking to HR people that their main focus was unions and administration and the new legal frame, which, I mean, really, honestly, who cares? I mean, if we were able as companies, and this starts from the leadership, to dare outsourcing everything which should not stay in the company. I mean, you can outsource litigations to a legal company. You can outsource payroll and have just a counterpart dealing with that. You can actually officially remove that type of HR from the company and outsource it. And probably nobody's going to feel the difference. When I give courses to the MBA and I start, the first slide people see in my 36-hour course is, why do we hate HR? And I let them speak for 15 minutes. And they come up with all possible examples of why they are right to hate the human resources that you describe. Because that's not human resources. That's pure admin. And you cannot have these people to flip and do the magic. They don't know.
There's something, if you're teaching at MEA, they have to change a course, because what we miss really in companies, if you do agile transformation, you know, people are thriving for, starving for leadership with a real vision, with a strategy. So we discover at board of directors, you don't have strategies because they're already outsourced it to a company like mine, like BCG, Bain, or whatever. And this is a mess. And so we had in the second wave on turnover, I'm between Germany and Switzerland. So you have a turnover of the people then you have the turnover management because nobody was able to find a way to get out of this mess. Because you have to be creative. You're on a black swan, or what you call a VUCA, which is typically you have to think to be creative, and people are just applying models. And here HR is needed. So actually, I usually work on very large things, and so we have this mindfulness, like you mentioned, is great, and you have this conscious bubbling up, and we try to onboard HR from the IT and asset management part, which should not be the way, but they want to get out because, hey, you're addressing here some kind of sense of belonging, like we are building a family, what are the rules of family? You're not defining who is in the family. Maybe you have the crazy cousin and maybe you have a lovely mother. You don't know, and you don't care. But and here comes, you have to take them because it's about shared leadership, all this kind of new stuff that people are they're starving to get this, but they don't know where to go because they're lost. So we have a momentum.
It is very, very painful for me to say this, but we are at the end of our time slot allocated on the Zoom account. We can extend it with maybe 5 to 10 more minutes. And a deep, deep thank you to everybody being here today. Before really pushing on this big red painful end button, a very, very quick round of the table, Hacking HR Luxembourg and Friends style. A reminder before that, February the 10th, so 3 Wednesdays from now, the same time slot, 5:30 to 7 p.m. CET. Together with my Hacking HR Luxembourg colleague Miguel, we're building an event on HR heavy lifting for 2021. So what are the key main heavy challenges for HR over the next year? So February 10th, watch out LinkedIn for the heads up. So very quickly, what is your key takeaway message for us today? Maximum 1 minute per speaker, and I will start with Julian.
Oh, thanks. What I would say really, the first topic I mentioned today, or one of the first one, is really that soft is the new hard. So go and see who's got those skills, and we really need to get a lot of people to learn the ways of mindfulness or positive psychology, because it's really the key to understand how people work. And the second part, and I will close it there, help people to know themselves. There are so many tools so that people can get an explanation of the why of things happening. And that's, I think, the way to start. But really go out there and find the right people to run this job. Don't ask and don't judge a fish on his qualities to climb a tree. You cannot ask this to a fish.
Thank you. Thank you. Irene.
My last words to everyone listening is that it all starts with you. Walk the walk, be the leader that you are, show an example, reach out and ask, interact. And that's how we show that we care. Talk is cheap, action is everything. So do as you say, walk the talk. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Nanda.
In my very own words, I'm going to say exactly the same thing. We can all make the difference in this agenda. Actually, it is our responsibility, it's our duty, and we have no time to waste.
Thank you.
Walk the talk.
So soft is the new hard. It all starts with you, and we can all make the difference. No time to waste. Thank you so very, very much, everybody. Please feel free to reach out and connect over LinkedIn. Good to have you here. Have a safer, saner, brighter 2021, and looking forward to seeing you again soon. Take care and stay safe.
Minola, I sent you a message. Can you save the chat? Because there is a lot of resources there.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I tried, I cannot copy. I think you only have the rights. You got the power.
And all for free. That's terrible. No, take a look on Beyond Budgeting. It's quite interesting. They made the gap between HR and finance. And you have a lot of very straightforward cases like Handelsbanken. And it's quite very inspiring.
Cool, thank you. We'll do that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Minola. Great job as always. You're
Thank you
amazing.
very
Yes.
much. Thank
Amazing.
you all.
Let me join you. Thank you so much. For
Thank
setting
you.
it up and guiding
Yeah,
us.
and Julia, Nanda, and Irene, if you have two more minutes, we have the slot until 10 past, just a very quick round. So
We do.
yes,
Okay.
thank you very, very much, everybody.
Keep the faith.
Ciao. Thanks for
Stay
coming.
strong.
Ciao. Take
Thank you
care.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now that was fast. Huh?
It was.
It
It
went
was.
fast. It went really, really fast.
Thank you, guys. I've learned a lot from all of you.
That was
Thank
cool,
you.
eh? Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice.
Julian, I cannot save the chat. There is a function to save the chat, but for some reason
You don't.
it doesn't
So
work.
let's
Because I
before we close, I'm going to do some screenshots and then share them.
yeah,
with you.
this is what we did. So I will take a one last photo. You know, the before and after, if that's okay with you.
Mhm.
Yes.